Let's talk about the economy. During the election, the Trump campaign accused the Biden administration of really not seeing what was happening with the economy. Is the same thing happening now? It seems like there's a rather large disconnect between the president and his friends, I'll just say it, who are doing very well and painting things in gold, and the rest of the country.
Yeah, there's clearly a huge disconnect between the kinds of people who can pay the $1 million entry fee to Mar-a-Lago, the kinds of people who can put millions of dollars into the building of a gilded ballroom at the White House for the president's fancy dinner parties, and everybody else, from my neighbors in Michigan to the people that I'm meeting on the road. I would also say, though, there is something parallel to past times when there's been economic pain, but there's also something very different. And the thing that's very different is usually when you see something like inflation, you see an administration doing everything they can to bring it down. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't. But they're doing everything they can to drive costs down. Right now, we have an administration doing everything they can to drive costs up. And it's across every category of the economy. Prices at the grocery are higher because of the tariffs, about $1,000 per family. The cost of food is going up because of what's happening with fertilizer. Energy bills are up because they're killing clean energy and all kinds of energy generation and transmission projects. And of course, gas is up because of the war in Iran. So it's not just that they're failing to get the cost of living under control in this country. It's that in case after case, every single turn, they are finding ways to actually drive it up because for them and their friends, it doesn't matter. They don't care.
So I asked this question just now of Governor Moore, and his answer, a question I'm going to ask about what's happened this week. And his answer was one that you hear from a lot of people, which is, we're used to Donald Trump. He says so many crazy things, and he said so many crazy things in the last 10 years. It's hard to rank one as worse than the other. There is a feeling among a lot of people, though, that this week we reached some new place between the Easter Truth Social post and the threat to obliterate all of Iran's entire civilization on Tuesday. Luckily, that has not happened. But for a lot of people, it's like this is different, some categorically different. It feels different, and because the stakes are so much higher, war and peace are on the line.
Right.
What do you think? Have we crossed the line? And if we've crossed the line, what are the implications of that in terms of the president's, not just his strategy, but his sanity?
I think it was F. Scott Fitzgerald said that going bankrupt is something that happens gradually, then suddenly. Maybe it was Hemingway. I don't know. But it feels like one of those moments where this has been happening gradually, really since the day he came down that escalator a decade ago. And then certain things are happening suddenly. For the leader of the free world, the leader of this country, to just make a nakedly genocidal threat against another civilization, as if the United States of America was a Death Star that was going around blowing up civilizations. Of course, that crosses a new line, and of course, that's a new low. I think the really important thing to remember is that the effects of that kind of thing will outlive Donald Trump long after he has departed the scene. The collapse in trust, not just affection for the United States, but trust in the United States. And it's very important that not just allies, but frankly also adversaries that we're negotiating with when we're making a peace deal or some other kind of deal, that they have a level of trust that there is stability in the United States. And while maybe a lot of people wrote it off, the Truth Social post, or any of the other stuff he said, it's just bluster, it's just Trump being Trump, the reality is that the whole country is being judged, even though most Americans don't support him anyway. The whole country is being judged just for tolerating that kind of thing at the White House.
I think it was Hemingway, by the way.
Secretary, you have addressed what Trump has said. You're speaking this morning at National Action Network's convention. You have a tough group to follow because Kamala Harris is speaking, and then Joe Scarborough. Morning Joe's coming over and speaking. You're right behind him. It's not enough just to talk about the outrage of what Trump is saying. What do Democrats need to be saying? What is going to penetrate the American electorate, in your opinion, that is backed up with deeds, not just rhetoric, but what is the message that you think people should go into the midterms with from Democratic leadership and in 28? And many are wondering whether you're going to run. I don't know if you're going to announce today or not, but I'll leave that for you. But what is the message? It's not enough to say this guy is off the wall. Where's the message that resonates with the American voter?
That is so important. I think that's everything. And the message is your everyday life could be better. It's not just everything that this president and this administration are doing wrong. It's what you're missing out on because of that and what will happen if we do it right. If you have people who actually are making your cost of living lower, making sure that we're building more energy resources so that your power bill goes down. People are making sure you get paid more, making sure in this country that one job is enough. And with things that are coming our way, not just because of the political catastrophe that's underway, but just because they are, like artificial intelligence companies this week telling us that they've completed models that they are so afraid of that even though they're in a cutthroat competition, they're not releasing them. This is going to require leadership that can make sure that you are better off, not worse off because of what's going on in your government. And I am actually very worried. My kind of tough love medicine to fellow Democrats is that we run the risk of doing well in 2026 because of everything that's going on, and then imagining that our job is just to put everything back the way it was. And the old status quo was not working. All of that is what led to all of this. We cannot get caught, not just politically, but in terms of what the right thing to do for this country is. We cannot get caught in the mode of saying we're just going to piece together everything that they broke and give you the world the way it looked in 2022 or 2012.
There is plenty of political strategy in terms of how do you respond to these crises. I do think often, though, that, yes, we are a country with a rule of law. And that has never seemed more irrelevant to the proceedings here. Is that a conversation that's just impotent at this point? The idea that we're going to talk about corruption, we're going to talk about money flows, we're going to talk about all the things that might and should be prosecuted. But because we've learned of the de facto immunity of this administration, that we're just not going to talk about that? Is that a political... Is that a dead fish, or is that something worth actually discussing?
I think we got to do both. Look, I get this strategy that says, look, you did this stuff about the collapse in the rule of law and democracy. You got to save that for another day because right now it's about the economy. And look, I talk about the economy everywhere I go, but we also need to connect the dots. Part of why everyday life is getting worse in this country is because those institutions are broken. It's not just that the law isn't being followed, it's that so many nakedly corrupt things turn out not to be against the law. There's so many things that turn out to be perfectly legal, especially the way money is being spent to manipulate the outcomes of elections in this country. And again, it's one of those kind of gradually then suddenly things, right? We have accepted this for so long that we may have forgotten that it doesn't have to be this way. But it definitely doesn't if we support the kind of reforms that will keep us from being in this situation ever again.
Pete Buttigieg said something that I think the most honest thing any Democrat has said publicly in years. He said, we run the risk of winning in 2026 and then just trying to put everything back the way it was. And the old status quo was not working. All of that is what led to all of this. That is worth sitting with, to be honest, because the temptation after everything we have watched, the war, the gas prices, the NATO threats, the fake awards, the golden ballroom, the temptation is to just want to go back to normal, back to 2019, back to before any of this happened. I understand that feeling completely, but Buttigieg is right, going back is not enough because the system that existed before Trump was already broken enough that enough people were angry enough to vote for him twice. And then there's the other thing that he said nobody wants to talk about. He said so many nakedly corrupt things in this country turn out not to be against the law. That is not a radical statement. That is a description of how money has been allowed to flow through American politics for decades until the rules that were supposed to protect everyone stopped protecting anyone except the people who could afford to buy the rules. $1,000 per family per year in higher grocery prices because of tariffs. Gas up 60 cents a gallon in a month. And the other end of it, $1 million entry to Mar-a-Lago and a gilded ballroom in the White House paid by the people who benefit from all of it. The people who built this country, who worked their whole lives and paid their taxes and followed the rules and trusted that institutions would protect them. They deserve better. You deserve better. And they know it. Please drop a comment down below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. I need my elders to support me. I mean you. Thank you so much.